The file you are about to hear has been thoroughly scrutinized by the Ethics Committee and approved by the O5 Council for release to trusted associates of the Foundation. This is SCP Unredacted. It had been some time since I'd seen such a strange sight. Before me stood a strange natural formation formed of regular sectors that linked together piece after piece. Even though it was stationary, it felt as if each segment interlocked and weaved as they cascaded into the relatively simple shapes of the wall. It was curious, like the creations of an old friend from some time in the past. We traveled together briefly, contemplating our arts and creations, until our interests led us towards different paths. Being a stout believer that his art could capture the uniqueness of our natural world, he would toil endlessly in his travels to marvel at the beautiful landscapes and sceneries as he attempted to capture the essence of their creativity. He tried to capture the beautiful forms, imitating the intricacies that he appreciated in the peaceful world around us. While his art was purposeful and well-made, he eventually made the choice to confine himself to solitude. But even though we had not seen each other in an eternity, his words stuck with me. As I looked at the shadows of the crevices and the ruggedness of each solitary molecule haphazardly combined, I couldn't help but give a slight smile, thinking of a small work of art I once saw. Straightening out my tie, I slowly made my way into the hollow interior of the structure, taking in the striking darkness inside. I summoned a small light so that I could make out the details more clearly and placed it within the corner. The space was small and cramped, with each wall meeting another in rough shapes. It made me feel uncomfortable. A word came to my mind as feelings I had never considered flooded towards me. Claustrophobic. None of it felt natural. The space felt deeply unsettling, as if its creator had no regard for comfort or room. It felt clumsy. The very idea that such a place could exist wasn't right. My mind spun over and over again as I tried to come to terms with this perplexing sensation, but no matter how much I thought, I couldn't find any reason. Each molecule was uneven and haphazardly placed. The elements mixed in ways that displayed no significant value. It was imperfect. I was baffled by the concept of its existence. Did its creator have some specific intent? What meaning could such a strange structure provide? While it was certainly unique, my mind still searched for the answer to its existence. And as it searched, it came to a conclusion that stunned me. There was no meaning anymore. This was somewhere without purpose or beauty. Maybe such a structure once had meaning, but now it was only hollow. No longer did it matter what such a place once did or was. Now, it was only unsettling to look at. Himself had similar thoughts. While his art was beautiful to admire, once he moved to somewhere new, he became painfully aware that no recognition would come his way as it was discarded and ignored. He created many a masterpiece, but grimaced as the fate of these pieces dawned on him bit by bit. Even if others knew he had created it, he would never once meet any of them. Eventually, it all became too much for him, and maybe there was some reason I found this place. Any creature could see that work belonged to him. But looking at my surroundings, I could think of no such name for this place. All I could make out was the ugliness of design. Ugly. It was such an unbearable feeling, and I knew I had to do something about it. I simply had to create. I reached out my hands and carefully moved each particle into shape. guided the form into something that was natural. I willed it to be something more, something that I wanted it to be. The stone moved and molded with a thought. It was calming to see atoms, electrons, and the shapes they exist in take a more suitable shape. This was the end of that creator's work. The meaning of the design will be lost. But maybe that's the fate of everything. Maybe everything will one day be lost. Everything will be eternal. After a little bit of time, I finished up my handiwork and stood back to take it all in. While it was hardly anything special, I could finally say that everything was in order, exactly where it should be. No longer had it been claustrophobic. But deep down, I wondered if this was the meaning it was meant to have. There's no way to know for sure. But I appreciated the work that I had done. Hopefully one day soon others will come to appreciate work such as my friends and mine. Satisfied, I departed from the strange land so I could write this account. How noteworthy it truly was, I cannot say, but I take pride in what is now my own. If the world has none who create works, I shall simply create them myself.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, join my Discord community, hire me on Fiverr, or help support me by becoming a patron for as little as $3 a month. Regardless of tier, all patrons get early access to every single episode. The links are in the description. I don't have the talent it takes to write a skip. All I do is read. Original authors make this podcast possible, so credit to the original author. Their links in the description. Show them some love as well. Consider becoming a member of the SCP Wiki. Upvote their work, and maybe write a skip of your own. Maybe I'll read it here someday. You never know if you never try. The content of this podcast and content relating to the SCP Foundation, including the SCP Foundation logo, is licensed under Creative Commons Sharealike 3.0, and all concepts originate from scpwiki.com and its authors. This recording, being derived from this content, is hereby also released under Creative Commons Sharealike 3.0.